Right, doing something else today. One of the parts I've been waiting to find for many, many years now is this. I wanted to get the original part, a real one. I did once get a replica. This came from Bevel Heaven. I don't know who made these, but I don't like it. It looks better on camera than it does in real life. Very wonky looking. It's fine, it's fine, but no. I never liked it, so I actually used the one I had, which was a damaged one here. And I just cleaned it up. There we go. What I did with that was I cleaned it up. I put it in a drill and sort of machined it down just using a file. This was a pretty rough one, and made it pretty much match the one I had up top, which was this one. See? And they're both basically look the same. And I had them plated and fine. This one is the proper one for the top hull here, the ignition cover. Oh, no, there we go. And that's fine, but it is plated now. It's funny because the plating came out to look just like the aluminium here, but it isn't. And so I've got that. I had this, and I just always been looking for original parts. Oh, eventually I found another one of the top one here, and that's this. So this is unused part with the original plating on it. That's got all the right look to it, and that's what I want there. So I've got that. Found that a couple of years ago when I thought I was actually purchasing this one. But then it arrived and I went, oops, whatever. I got the wrong one, but it was still the right one because I actually did want a nice original untouched one of those. And then just recently I finally found this one. It's the Agip F1 Oleo. This is not NOS, obviously. It's been used. It's from a guy who was selling parts, I think, off an 860 or something like that, or a 900. And this was one of them, so I was very happy to get that. Price was fine, but the shipping was horrendous. Now, the question then arose, what about the washers? Because this one had its washer also sitting on the back, stuck to it. Here. Like that. And the washer looks good in terms of the size here. It's just a fraction proud of the outside. And in order to achieve that look, it's quite thick. It's quite a wide washer here in this area. So the inner and outer, the outer is sort of is larger. If you go and get a replacement one of these washers from one of the normal suppliers, typically it arrives like this. And as you see, it's actually quite a bit smaller. In fact, if I line them up, so they're there you go. That's how much smaller it is in diameter. Quite a lot smaller. And so the issue there is that it sits back from the outer edge. And so you get the shoulder on the case. When that's in there, you get that shoulder. And I don't want that. I want it to look right, because I'm very fussy about my bike, as you might have noticed. And so seeing this washer was like, oh, okay, bingo. That's what I'm looking for. Can't find that. I measured it up. Can't find that anywhere. And the same question then I also had about the top one. What about that? And I realized that these are different, which is funny. They're the same, but different. I don't know why they did that. That one's so big, this one is bigger. There's a couple of millimeters difference between the two. And so whilst I have washers for the oil one, for the crank one, that one, I haven't got any for the other. The one that is on there, and this one. And so I actually got measurements. Now that one just stands out quite far. I would have got that probably from, Medina or somewhere like that. And that one fits, but it squishes on and deforms here becomes a dish because of this lip here. It doesn't fit into that. It's actually too big for that. Like that, see? So it squishes in there. So that's not right either. So in the case of this upper one, it really needs to be probably the size of the item here itself. Let's have a look. Now it can also be a tiny bit bigger, and in fact in my measurements I've made it a tiny bit bigger, so the way I've made it is going to work. What else have I got? So interestingly, the washer that I did have on here, which could have been one that I got when it was on when I got the bike, I believe that is going to match the one that came with the new plug for this. And yes, it is. It's that same size. Looks like it's a tick smaller on the inside, but no, basically the same. So that's interesting. And if I put that on there, nope, it's actually too small on the inside. So it's a tick smaller on the inside. These things have a shoulder there, which is beveled. And so that when the washer goes all the way down, it centers itself. And this here is sort of pivoting on that bevel. Actually needs a tiny bit out of the middle. So it's a tiny bit too large, but otherwise that's actually a good size. That is the right size that I'm after. Because on the outside, it's going to look right. It just comes out a little tick. Okay, so I looked all over to try and get these, and I can't really get them. And so I thought, why don't I try and make them? I'll try and make those washers on my lathe, now that I have a lathe. I've only done like one project so far, and so this can be my second project. Make a couple of washers in different sizes. And so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I have measurements, but as I say, I've just come down here and pulled these off and realized that this one actually has to fit within that space. So I'm just going to check what that is. Yeah, like 28.9, 28.8, 28.9. And the one that I had has deformed itself to be a millimeter bigger, 29.9. In any case, let's go back to the lathe and decide what we're going to do. What I'm trying to do is figure out how am I going to make these on the lathe. Obviously some aluminium rod, bore it out or whatever and cut it down on the outside and done. But no, the difficulty is going to be parting off something as thin as this. These about 1 1/3 millimeters. So 1.5 millimeters would be about right. We'll have to see how that goes. Now I actually made some measurements here looking at the manuals and doing measurements on these screws, and I came up with them 24.5 by 29 for the upper plug and 22.5 by 30 for the lower one. Now the 29, that matches that figure pretty well that I just determined for that flange on the upper plug where this washer got squished into. You can see how dished it is because of that. It got squished in there. So, and I came up with, what did I come up with? 28.8 or so. And my measurement here is that I came up with was 29. So that's close enough to that. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the 29 or maybe a tick less. I think in order to test parting off, what I'll do is I'll make the smaller, I'll put a rod on, make the smaller hole first, the M22.5, and the outer for that one I think was the larger one, the 30. So I'll make the outside 30, the inside 22.5, and I'll see if I can part off 1.5 millimeters. If I can, great. I'll make a few, and then I'll make the hole bigger and the outer another millimeter smaller, and I'll do the other. the other set of washers, make a few of those. So let's go look for some rod. So I'll go up to my nice new storage rack. Oh, that's not 30, is it? That's probably an inch. I haven't got anything here. Oh, it is. It's 30, 31. This is great. Really enjoying this tool. I look forward to making cuts on it. There we go. How great is that? We'll put the new side at the back here, and then we can face off the side that was cut at the aluminium place. So that was their cut. That was their fancy cut. And that was my fancy cut. It's 1/100th. Close enough. Let's tighten that up. Still 100th. So there's the spot. We'll take it out. We're going to go in 1/2 millimeter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Halfway around the dial. Good? Good. Nice. Back out to the 0 mark. Back out here. And that's already a beautiful cut. God, and there's nothing left. So take it back out to the 0 mark, go back, have a look. Oh, nice. Very nice. It is nice. It's nice. Okay. There we go. Once you get gripping, that's nice. Better than that. It's chewing it up now. Yeah, just looking through it. I've got this 13. This is the one I destroyed in another video. Destroyed it cutting stainless steel for the bandsaw table, and absolutely wrecked it. And I ended up putting it in my drill sharpener as my first test drill in that. And I let it grind it down like 3 or 4 millimeters, and it gave me that tip. And the only issue with it is that the angle is not correct for metal. That's what I determined. That drill sharpener does the wood angle, but you know, it's still going to cut. It's just not ideal, I guess. Showing it just nothing. Yep, happy with that. I'll go 18, 20, and maybe 22. We'll see. I'll need to start boring at some point because I want to try boring. 18. We're going from 13 to 18. That's 2.5 millimeters a side. That's actually too big. But we'll start it and see what happens. I think that is way too much. It's gotten fine. Oh God, get it out. Get it out. We're going to be boring now though, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I should have moved this away towards the rear. Early on I got these because they were super cheap. Got a whole set of these things. So let's see what that is. 17.96. So far, this is all going really well. Those drill bits, you know, pretty rough finish in there. I've got all the way out to 32. Look at the size of that thing. It's bigger than that. Okay, go. It's all on camera. Go. Yikes. 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 Is that alright? Yes. Yes. Doesn't sound like it's cutting anything at all in there. The tool's too big. The tool's got a step in it, so the tool's only for making little tiny cuts, or you have to run it on an angle. That step, of course, and that step, this piece isn't as far out as that step. So it cuts and then it hits the step and the whole tool gets deflected. What? I've got this one. Yeah, well that's much... See, it's got a big head, but this is really small. It's probably going to wobble. I'll have to use this. I'm just going by the edge here to see if I've got it in there straight. I can only hold on to it with two of these screws. Takes all day to make a video, edit it. Takes me all year and I haven't put out any. Okay, nothing there, there, there. Tight, tight, tight. Away we go. .800 RPM, 870. Take it out. 19.62. 22.50. Beat that. Is that what I wanted? It is, isn't it? And on the outside, 29.9. A few hundredths small on the outside. And bang on the inside. Well, I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to be trying to cut off a washer. And if it works, I'll cut off a couple more. And then I'll change the measurements for the other washer, and I'll do that. This is the smaller one, so it's for the oleo plug. It's for this one. Meaning it should fit in there. There we go. That's how it's going to be. That looks good. And the nearest one that I've got that's a real one, that someone probably made in a fraction of a second, is that one. Right. All right, so I'm locking my base down, and I'm going to use the top slide to go across by an accurate amount. We want 1.5 millimeters. And this, well, the other ones are 1 1/3. I'm going to go 1.5. Locked, also locked, and then the saddle locked. There we go. That's pretty good. Just got to keep the cut going. Oh, I forgot to cut it off. See, there's the ring, but it's just about off. Nearly got it off on all sides. There we go. Look at that. That's a thick washer, though. Why is that so thick? Why is that so thick looking? Oh, 1.52. But they are... God, that is so close. It just looks thick, even though it's only 0.2 of a millimeter thicker. Not even, 0.15 or so, 0.16. It's hardly thicker at all, but it just seems thick. There's that little ring again. Just pops off. So these next ones are going to be M24.5 by M29. So let's do the inside first. .56 is fine. So to follow that up, I need to then do the outside. Try this one. Just a little bit. So I'd expect this to be 29 and maybe 0.02 or something to 0.03. See? 29.03. That's what I'd expect, and it is. Yeah. Took me 2 days to make some washers. There we go. Those are nice. I like them. That's the next pile. Where did the first lot go? Up there. Yep. Now cleaning up this plug. I'm going to use brushes. I've tried out little patches. And the brass one is the one I'm going to use. But for the rear, to get this shit out of all this area, I'm going to use a steel brush. Okay, and I'm going to use the old wax and grease remover throughout this process. Nice, that's working very well. Pick out some of the stubborn bits. Oh, they're all gone. Nice. So the threads are looking very nice. As for all this bit, let's just try the brass. Some marks around that surface. It looks like it needs to be lathed a bit. Don't know if it's visible. There's a little bite mark there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times around there. In 5 spots. Why is that? Now, one thing I noticed is that this plug was all gunged up, right? And he sold it. Maybe it's just didn't work. And he had a lot of gasket cement on it, which may be the reason that may be the reason. Now, as for the front here, basically brush it out. On the surface, it's basically just dirty. It's coming up like new. Yep, that looks the part. And the other one on this here. Now this has a few marks on it. So let me just, this is plated, that's not. That's just cast. So let's see what the deal is with the marks. This one's never been on a bike, so it's just got muck and spots on it from sitting around for decades. It's very deep in the pores. But that's all I can do. And I'm not going to polish them, so they don't look right polished. The other ones did because they were a pair and sort of looked right. Now these two are not a pair, but then that's sort of the point. All right, so there we go. Got our 2 plugs. And we have our wonderful washers. And we're going to go pick a washer Go put them on the bike. I need my tool here. Now one of them is metric. I don't think the other one is. I think that's some imperial size. So we just put it on without try not to muck it up. Now I'm just going to pick the nicest washer. Well, that's the thinnest. We'll go with that one. Now with these ones, well, let's go for the second or third. They feel nice, either of those. So that one, put all those washers away. There's a question whether one should wet them with a bit of oil. There we go. And a little amount right there. There we go. So the point of this one is it slots perfectly into that little gap. Just to demonstrate, it sits in there now. There's a tiny little bit of movement, which is perfect. So 29 is exactly the size for that. And that won't dish when it's tightened up. These don't need much, there's no pressure behind these. And this one probably needs a bit of CRC. I'll just spray it with some CRC for a bit of protection. Because it was just cleaned and degreased. First thing it's going to do is pick up corrosion or some kind of atmospheric problem. How perfect is that? How perfect is that? It just sits in exactly the right place all around. You don't get that shoulder behind it. Just to drive the point home for the uninitiated. Here's the kind that you buy nowadays. It sits like that. And you get that. See, the whole bolt looks like it's standing out. Well, I'm extremely happy with this plug. I'll tell you that much. Very happy to get that. That is the finishing touch, that is. It really is. Well, both those plugs are. There we go. Quite a few of these things, though, those were the finishing touch for that. Getting those screws was hard. Those are originals. Yeah. You often see these things replaced with hex screws and flat top ones and stuff like that. But these are all correct. But these are looking great. Look at that. Very nice. And up there. Absolutely perfect. Yep. That's it. How great is that? Very great, I say. So I was really happy with the results of this. It took a lot of work, but I'm upskilling, learned a lot. Going to be spending time on parting tools. That's been a real problem, so I got to sort that out. Amazing how many chips there are left in the tray after doing these, tiny little parts. But really happy with the results there. They look great. Now stick around in this video because we've still got 3 sections on washers coming up. Something for the kickstart, something for the petcocks, and something for the oil filter. Alright, just had another new old stock part arrive. Paid through the nose for this item. Didn't really want to. But I've been looking for this for a long time. I wanted the original part. And this is the washer that goes on the Kickstarter spline. So it would be between the Kickstarter and the crankcase, or the side cover. You could, of course, get any old washer, but I didn't want any old washer because I'm going all the way with it. So that's going there in a bit of a evaporust. And I'll just let that sit for a while I go have breakfast. Alright, back again. Let's have a look at this. That's basically it. Gonna leave it like that. I'm not going to polish it up or anything. Just leave it like that. Right, now so the way what happened here was when I got my bike, there was an aluminium sort of a cup, not just flat, but sort of been molded into, been lathed into turned into a little bit of a cup over that, and it was all worn through. So it was half sort of worn out at that point when I got it. When I sent the engine off to Brooke for a rebuild, I pointed to that in my docs, and I said, well, do whatever you think for that. And so he made another one. He turned up another piece, similar but thicker, quite thick. And it's so thick that the spline is that far inside there. It doesn't look very good. And so eventually I thought I'd go and find out what's supposed to go on there. There. There it is. 21 washer, 20.2 on the inside and 32 on the outside. And so that's it. That's all it is. It's just a washer. But I then so with that part number, I went off and I've had a search going for that part number for a long time. And eventually one just turned up. There's the 20.2. And there's the 32. That's precisely the dimensions in the manual. So that's the part. It's just a flat washer. Steel flat washer. It's not plated or anything. It doesn't feel like it. Doesn't look like it. There we go. So that's the little sort of a cup-shaped thing. And so Brooke made me that up, and that's very similar to the one that the previous owner or the previous rebuilder had put on it, but is not how I wanted it to be. Now, logically, the cup thing like this seems like is what it would be, because there's a lip here, right there, you see, and so this fits over that very nicely and sort of seals it a bit. So one would think that that would be what was there, but it's not. It's just a flat washer. The washer is what's supposed to be on there, so that's what's on there. Well, that's it. That's the job. Done. Always wanted to do that. And there we go. And that's what it sits like. Good. Happy with that. All right, there we go. Another small job done. Video all about washers. One job I kept doing over and over after I got my bodywork back from being painted was the tank was just filthy, and I had to keep cleaning it out. I did clean it out carefully and extensively before I even put it on the bike, but once the petrol's in there, there's little bits coming off and floating around, and so I had to keep cleaning the petcocks, and as you can see, they were really, really filthy. And the downside with that was that the fiber washers that I was using were the same washers that were in it when I got it. I just had to keep reusing them again and again, and they were falling to pieces. And this was because I tried very hard to find them, and I couldn't find them anywhere. They're about a 14 point something millimeters outside, about 10 millimeters on the inside, and it's more likely that they're an imperial size, probably 9/16 outer diameter and 3/8 on the inside. And so eventually I spotted some 9/16 washers just in a local auto supply store. These ones here, this pack. But the inside was a 1/4 inch, which was obviously far too small. But I had this idea that maybe I would just try and, I don't know, enlarge the hole somehow. I thought I'd use a punch. I had a nice sharp hole punch. I sat down on the floor with that and a hammer and tried it, and there was no way. And then I had the idea of shoving a stack of them into a socket. I found a socket of a suitable size, as you can see here, and I just put, I can't remember how many, 5 or 6 or 7 of them into the socket and jammed them in there, and then I put the socket in a vise, and I put it on my drill press with a nice sharp drill, 10 millimeter drill. And yeah, so the socket was upside down. The drill would pull on it quite tightly, but I held it all down, and it went all the way through. And when I pulled all those washers out again, there was a bad one either end, but the ones in the middle were perfect. They looked factory made. So bingo. There it was. I had this stock of perfect washers for the Petcocks. I'm very happy with that. Another success. Very pleased to finally get those and replace the crappy old ones that were on the bike. And bonus number 2. Now, this I didn't really do anything. All I did was find this item and then install it. I didn't know that this was missing from my bike until I was browsing parts lists quite a long time ago. And I saw this part, this large washer that sits underneath the oil filter. I understand people used to use different oil filters, like off a Kawasaki or something. A filter that wasn't the same but was close, and you could use it. But I think you had to leave out the washer. Maybe someone else knows that story, but somewhere in my readings over the years, a story like that came about. And that may be why it was missing, because my bike did not have an original oil filter in it. So in any case, I needed to source this part. Where the hell was I going to get that from? And so I called up Ian Gowanlock over in Australia, because I had 2 or 3 other things that I wanted to get originals for. And so he had that part, and here it is. So I was very, very happy to get that and put it on, and then the filter, of course, fit correctly, because that filter, you know, it squishes in the lid that cap squishes down on the rubber around the filter, and the other side is that washer. That's what it needs to squish up against. That's why it's such a thick washer. So in any case, that's the last story about washers we'll do. All right, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Comment, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.